Welcome to this episode's SP cast. I still think that we should maybe change the name back to B&E. I was
B&E?
looking at Notion today and
You like B&E, huh?
yeah, B&E, breaking and entering.
I still like Woo and the Jew, but you know.
I'm Dr. Blake Wu, owner and operator of the Sports Pod. And
I'm not Dr.
This
Eric
is
Rosenstock.
Yeah, I know. People
They keep calling me doctor.
Doctor, I know, because usually I've never had a strength and conditioning coach in the clinic. There's only been doctors, so it's just an adjustment. And this is Coach Eric Rosenstock. You're gonna have to do. We have to do these introductions better.
We do? Okay.
Here, I'm gonna start again. I'm Dr. Blake Wu, owner operator of the Sports Pod, movement specialist extraordinaire of like 18 years.
Well, yeah, wizard. And I'm Coach Eric Rosenstock. And I'm the Sports Pod resident rehab and strength specialist.
You're gonna have to explain to the people why you're wearing ski goggles right now.
You know, we got a lot of snow last night.
Yeah,
in Dallas. I have the HIV. No, I'm just kidding. I have. Anyone want to guess out there?
He's got the eye syphilis.
I have eye AIDS. We are of the generation. I don't know if you know this, but we're of the generation where if there was any illness that you heard, like that you contracted in your friend group, you immediately had AIDS. That's what you did. You said you have AIDS. You have, and it was the AIDS.
This is
I have pink eye.
It only took us 12 episodes to get to cancel. We're gonna get canceled.
We're gonna get canceled now. So yeah, I have pink eye because I have 2 dogs that run and poop, and I have a kid that touches his butthole all the time.
Yeah, and let me tell you, this morning, for Eric has been it's just been
a journey. It was a journey.
Yeah,
I went on some side quests, and I I was too focused on the bit with the goggles that I forgot my headphones.
Yeah, I mean we need to have 2 pairs of headphones.
I'm just gonna buy a pair and leave them here.
Yeah,
it makes sense.
That just makes sense.
Yeah,
just because I don't want to have to text you, hey, remember to bring your headphones.
And you never had to before today.
Yeah.
The one day you didn't. Like every time you would text me, I'm like, I'm already in the car and I have them. Like, you're not my mom. Like I got it. Like I have my headphones. And then today you didn't. And
the one day that I don't actually do it is the day that he forgets, which I knew in my head. I was like calculating how much weird shit is going on in Eric's life. And I was like, he's going to forget the simple shit. Yeah. And this is what happens. And my anxiety brain is just proven right.
And Brooke woke up this morning and her left eye is getting a little weepy.
Yeah.
It's not great.
It's going to run through the entire household.
So she told me she was going to, quote unquote, fucking kill me.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And today when you are working with athletes, you're just going to have to wear these goggles all day.
And just keep my hands in my pockets.
Yeah. I mean, look, if you wear the goggles all day, you'll be fine because you're not touching your eye.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be spreading anything.
Yeah.
Isn't the spread
coming from the spread is the contact. I guess it's just like everyone tells me that pink eye is very contagious.
Yeah.
But I think the reason why is because everyone itches their eye or like touches their eye and then they spread it. I have been very good about not touching my eye.
Yeah.
Or if I do, I immediately like sanitize my hands.
Yeah, but the thing is the whole reason why it's so contagious is because you sometimes don't even know that you're touching your eye and then you touch something else. Yeah, that's true. That's the whole point.
That's how I got it.
Yeah,
that's how I got poop particles in my eye.
That's why you need to just wear the goggles all day and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
I know that you think this is actually, I mean, it originally started as kind of a bit because you texted me while I was grocery shopping. And that was the first thing that came to my head. But I actually do believe that you should wear the goggles all day.
This brand, Anon, they're actually great snowboard goggles. They're very light.
Yeah. My only issue with that brand, I mean, I like the real big ski goggles, like the big
Like
ones.
panoramic.
Yeah. And also I can tell that you're using the day lenses, which
Yes, I am.
I don't want anybody seeing what's going on behind.
You want to be able to check out the
snowboard chicks.
The snowboard chicks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then and also if it covers like 3/4 of my face, they don't know I'm ugly right away.
What percentage? What percentage of snowboard chicks?
Honestly, it works
both ways. They have to get closer. So what do you think the percentage is? You know, this will be our first Ask Me Anything. What's the percentage of snowboard chicks that have armpit hair?
100%.
100%? No.
I don't know. Snowboard chicks could be quite hot. That's just
Yes, and crunchy. Okay.
All right, so we've already gone through fucking eye aids and hairy armpits. We've essentially
we're good.
Yeah, we've already made 2 groups of people super
Mad
angry.
at us. So today's episode is an AMA, an Ask Me Anything.
Right, and for all of you that are out there listening, we generally throw these AMAs, you know, on our Instagram and also on our Reddit page. You know, once a week, once every 2 weeks. So when you catch them, throw us really any questions that you may be thinking. Honestly, we probably should have like maybe we should have an email for the podcast.
Ooh, I like that.
All right. You want to start with the first question?
Yes. The first question is, how often do you feel that a meniscus tear requires surgery?
Ooh, that's a great question. Meniscus tears, there are multiple types of meniscus tears. There are small transverse ones. So let me just go back and talk about what a meniscus is. Your meniscus are the 2 cartilage C-shape structures in your knee that attach on the top of your tibia, and its sole goal is to create stability in the knee, because it's kind of a not a ball and socket joint, but it's without the meniscus, it's just a flat surface on your tibia, and then you would create a ton of instability because your femur are like 2 knuckle bones.
Mm-hmm.
And with the main goal of the meniscus is to create a cup to be able to hold the femoral heads in there, and also to create shock absorption from the tibia, from the ground to the tibia to your knee. And oftentimes what happens, the most common tear is a tear inside the C, like right in the middle, and it goes right through transversely. There are things called oblique tears. There's a tear that goes all the way around the entire C. And then the worst type of tear is what we call a bucket handle tear, which it goes across the C and then flips over. When I generally, from research, it's the worst types of tears. The bucket handle tear is assuredly 99.9% time that you have to have the surgery,
and that usually presents with locking.
Yeah,
that's usually like
your knee is going to lock like a motherfucker, and then it's gonna be quite painful to like unlock it. Oftentimes it's a lock, and then when you unlock it, it's pretty sharp pain in your knee. Mm-hmm. And it's ginger, like you feel afraid to walk at any point in time because you just don't. Also, there's no rhyme or reason as to when it starts to lock. There is kind of a rhyme or reason, which is basically anytime you flex your knee. That being said, it's pretty unpredictable, and it's also quite painful. And when I recommend surgery, it's mostly patient dependent, athlete dependent. It's their history and what they are feeling. And it's not as inconspicuous as like a disc herniation. Like a disc herniation, some people can have like a 10 millimeter herniated disc and not feel one symptom. And then some people have a herniated disc of 1 millimeter and are bedridden.
Yeah.
It's not the same. It's not the same with meniscal tears.
It's pretty consistent.
It's pretty consistent. So generally, depending on how the patient is presenting, depending on their activity level, and depending on whether or not they are very good at adhering, like their athletic level, if they're very good at adhering to exercise and rehab, those are all variables. Here's a great example. I had a female patient who used to be a collegiate tennis player, and from day one, I knew that she had a meniscal tear, and she avoided getting the MRI, and she really thought it was like a fascial knee issue. And I was like, you really have a fucking joint issue. And just the way that she presented, which was like kind of locking, very consistent pain. There was nothing that I could do in the clinic that would make it feel better. There was no amount of rehab, or she couldn't do the rehab because she had 2 small children, and she had just gone past pregnancy, and she had postpartum. It was like a whole, these are the variables that I take in consideration. And I knew that I knew about, for her own mental health and just for her own physical health, that she would do very well with us. Like, she needed to have the surgery.
Yeah.
She needed to have the surgery because it was the path that would get her back to feeling herself as quickly as possible. And she avoided it for the longest time. And eventually she got an MRI. And of course I was right. She had a pretty big tear in there. And then when they got in there, it was actually worse than they thought. So that's the other thing. The caveat is imaging can only show you so much.
Yeah.
When a surgeon goes actually into your knee, they can really assess the damage of the actual knee. And so for her particular case, I was like, you absolutely need to have this surgery. And it was like for her, there was a lot of challenges, and I didn't necessarily understand why she was fighting me so hard on this fucking meniscal issue. And she did it. She feels fucking better. And
yeah,
I mean, those are the cases that where I'm like, I want to say, I fucking.
It's interesting, from my experience with them. It's this is why I'm wearing this. Like I want to itch. I want to itch them.
Yeah, see, and that's why you fucking wear the goggles. You just gotta wear the you wouldn't have known that you had done it, and bam. So,
it is an interesting, from my experience with meniscal tears. What you see is they're the injury to the knee that I feel like the most amount of like leeway with avoiding surgery compared to like if you tear an MCL or a PCL or an ACL, but it has the best rates of like success compared to ACL, MCL, PCL.
Yeah, the surgery is quite good, and the rehab is quite easy, and it's honestly, I could get you basically back to normal within 6 to 8 weeks. I mean, with my athletes that are very adherent and can tolerate what we do, then yeah, like it's real easy.
Yeah.
But the issue is like people are afraid of it, and I get it. I mean, the surgical technique has gotten so good over the years that they basically make 2 very small holes.
Isn't it crazy to think that the version of arthroscopic surgery that exists today is it within 3 decades?
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
That's why when I'm consulting with athletes about whether or not they should have surgery or not, and like knee replacements and stuff like that, I always, again, depending on the athlete, depending on how old they are, depending on a lot of different variables.
If it's like,
I say, some patients, they say like, wait, man, like look how quickly the surgeries have gotten much better. And
they won't be the same in the next 10 years.
No. And just technology just gets better and better and better. And Just the other day I had a patient in, and she had a meniscal, like complete meniscal replacement. Like they took a cadaver
And they just
meniscus
replaced
from
it.
like a 20-year-old who unfortunately got into a car accident. They donated their body on a donor list, and they are now implanting those into people's knees, which is interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't read much about that surgery. There's certainly was not a thing 10 years ago,
Yeah.
and now it's a thing.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah. So, if it's back to the main question, which is like, if you have a very small tear, yeah, I would, and depending on your activity level, even if you have a high activity level, I would say very easy to conservatively rehab that. If you have a larger tear or transverse, or like kind of along the entire C tear or bucket handle tear, the bucket handle tear for sure, you have to get that surgically fixed. But in some cases, if you're not super active, yeah. If you're a marathon runner, then
you have to.
Yeah. Like or if you're a pro athlete, you're going to have to do it. It's just going to bother you. And it's going to create all kinds of other issues. Your body knows it's fucked up, and it will try to adapt in maladaptive ways.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's what my recommendation would be.
All right. What you got for me?
Okay. First question. Can you spot reduce? The question was, if I did only sit-ups, can I make my abdomen, can I get a six-pack, essentially?
No. All right, move on to the next one. Yeah, so the whole, fallacy of spot reduction or targeting certain areas, your body is pretty much set in, like, from a genetic standpoint, like how you're going to put on weight and how you're going to lose weight. And so the only way you can direct or sort of like spot reduce is through hormone optimization. So you can't train something and spot reduce, but you can change your diet and lifestyle. If you look at your hormone panel, and for instance, you notice you have really low progesterone, really high estrogen, you have like some weird combination of hormone levels that will tend to drive fat deposits in certain locations. Someone who knows hormones really well can look at a person and see, like, okay, they have a lot of fat in their triceps or a lot of fat in their the love handle region, and they'll know immediately like kind of what that means from a hormone standpoint. And so then they can adjust the diet to promote the right things, and then they can adjust lifestyle factors.
So you're saying that you can essentially create or store fat in very specific regions, but you can't get rid of fat in very specific regions.
Correct. Through resistance training or through like exercise. So like if you're not going to reduce, say you carry your fat in your legs. Okay. If you just squat a bunch, you're not going to reduce fat in your legs. Now you can gain a bunch of muscle. And so the distance between the muscle tissue and the fat will go down. So it might perceive as a little bit more lean, but you're not spot reducing. And like, it becomes like kind of a semantics thing, but basically the idea that you can spot reduce through like focusing and targeting on a muscle group, that's not how it works.
But there's this dude on YouTube.
Okay. I know what you're doing.
I mean, technically, I was thinking about this question, which was, And I know, I mean, scientifically, in my logical brain, I know that does a spot reduction doesn't actually exist. But have you ever seen that dude that only did steroids in his in his arms?
Yeah.
And he's just like fucking jacked in both arms, but the rest of his body is.
Wasn't that guy in that documentary, Bigger, Stronger, Faster? I think was the name of the documentary. It was about steroid abuse.
Mm-hmm.
And he had like the world's largest biceps.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So isn't that a way of spot reducing?
By injecting yourself with steroids?
In the one spot.
In the one spot? I mean, I don't know. Now I'm totally confused. I think when you start introducing outside factors, I think
okay,
we're getting into.
You can spot. So technically, you could spot reduce if you pump steroids in one spot. If you do
steroids, maybe.
Okay,
yeah, because depending on the type of steroid and the type of injection, and I mean, it's got to be intramuscular. I guess all steroids are intramuscular. Then yeah, you're going to promote
more muscle
in that area. Region. But that's yeah, but see, the other thing about steroid is it's about the amount of androgenetic receptors in the muscle tissue. That's what gets triggered, or that's what is getting acted upon. So that's why people that do steroids tend to there are certain muscle groups in the body that have more than other muscle groups. So when a lot of people that do steroids, they have a similar shape and size because the traps and the shoulders have more. So
they absorb. They absorb the steroid.
Well, there's more receptors there,
and that's why they a common body shape of a person that's like really rocking steroids hard is like
they
have no neck.
Neck.
It's all
trap.
It's all trap.
And then the similar thing for HGH is they call, or like, well, they call it roid belly, but I'm oh man, I'll have to double check this. So for the one person watching, I'm sorry if I get this wrong, but I thought it was growth hormone that does it more. But you get, it's called growth belly. Like HGH creates like I guess because of the way you're causing growth, it like pushes the stomach out.
Whoa. So
that's why a lot of people that's why if you look at like Sylvester Stallone, he's got this like weird distended abs mm-hmm. in his abdomen. That's why.
Okay, so I can't do HGH.
I mean, yeah,
it's just gonna make my stomach bigger.
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay, next
I'll
question.
have to do a follow up on that. I'm pretty sure I'm right.
We can do a fact check on it. The other thing that we're gonna start doing is we're gonna start fact checking.
Yeah, we gotta fact check. Sometimes we just say shit.
Yeah, we're just gonna do little.
Or
bonus episodes.
we're talking quickly and we transpose a word or say the wrong thing or flip flop. Okay.
Next question.
This one is really gonna stump you.
Okay, here we go.
The best action movie from the 90s.
I mean, we were just talking about this in the clinic, which was all the Van Damme movies. Jean-Claude Van Damme, JVCD is what the kids are calling it for short. JCVD, Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah.
I mean, he was such a figure in my childhood because I watched so much of that. I watched so much Steven Seagal.
Yeah,
so much Arnold, Sylvester.
We all wanted
Stallone
to look like. I always wanted to look like Van Damme because I thought that was an attainable body type. Whereas when you looked at Schwarzenegger, you're like, oh, okay, well he's freaking Mr. Universe. So.
I know. Like Terminator 2, but Terminator 2 was later. I'm trying to think, like, if I'm thinking about my first
Commando.
My first action movie. Well, first action movie would have been any type of Bruce Lee movie. But that's
but when did they come out? It's 90s. I asked you 90s specifically.
90s specifically. The one movie that just comes to mind consistently is Predator.
Predator, okay.
Yeah, Arnold. Come and catch me.
That's a pretty cool line. That's a pretty good. I
And
mean,
when he's putting the mud on, it's because
he comes up out of
figures
it.
out the predator is
Heat.
obviously using heat
Yeah.
signature like goggles in his helmet.
Yeah, like these.
Like,
Yeah.
how's my heat
Looking good.
looking good? Yeah, it's what is yours?
Heat.
No, I said, oh, Heat the movie.
Yeah, I'm saying. Oh, I thought you were saying what's your movie?
Yeah,
Yeah.
what's your movie? Heat, which is Al Pacino,
Val Kilmer,
R.I.P. Val Kilmer just
left us to the other plane.
Passed.
Yeah,
a couple of days ago. Heat is a very good movie, but I wouldn't call that an action. That's like more of a thrill. I would put that under thriller. That's not like a full action
that
pack.
whole like. It's not the highway, but it's like a.
I mean, then you would say Speed is an action. Speed's
action. Definitely an action.
No, that's a thriller.
That's not a thriller. The whole thing is action. It's suspense. If anything, it's suspense.
And I would say Heat is thriller suspense. I wouldn't say it's
okay.
Like my definition of
then
action
I change my answer to The Rock.
Oh, that's
was that late 90s?
Late 90s. And again, I would put that under the like
little green balls that just fuck you up. They broke.
Sean Connery is classic. Nicolas Cage. I mean, don't get me wrong. I
Nick
love
Cage
me some
is the man.
Nick Cage in the 90s. Nick Cage, but that was like late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah, Nick Cage in the early 2000s was great too. You had like Adaptation. You had
no, but like there is action. I think most Nick Cage movies are
Con Air.
Con Air is so good.
Actually, jeez.
I still don't think like action. Again, when I think of action movies, I think of like the
Michael Bay. You think of Michael Bay?
Yeah, like the prototypical like
Armageddon.
Commando.
Oh, so you're okay.
Like prototypical Rambo. That's an action.
So
Jackson.
Is Terminator?
Terminator for sure is Action Jackson.
Okay.
Maybe it's just like a central character. I don't know. Nick Cage is not necessarily a central character in The Rock because Sean Connery plays such a role. Ed Harris plays a big role. Ed Harris is like the first kind of anti-hero in the sense of
you kind of knew what he was doing.
You understood he was the villain, but you understood why he wanted to use the biological warfare.
Yeah.
Con Air. Again, there are multiple people. I think like action movies are more like Mission Impossible.
Oh yeah.
But that was like late 2000. That was early 2000s. That wasn't 90s.
You're right.
I mean,
I feel like I'm probably forgetting something important in the 90s.
I mean,
Speed stands out, Heat stands out.
This was your question.
Well, I thought I was giving it to you, and then you turned it around on me, and I'm all mind bottled.
Yeah, I mean, if you're, and I don't even think The Rock. I think The Rock was early 2000s. I don't actually think The Rock.
Oh, was it?
Yeah,
you're right. It was because I already moved to Texas.
Movie. Yeah. I don't think it's a 90s movie.
Yeah.
There's so many good action movies in the 90s.
There really are.
I might even say Kindergarten Cop is a action.
No.
Twins?
It's not a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Maybe it's a tumor. Okay, next question. I just gotta check my phone.
Okay. I see. I memorized mine.
You memorized yours?
Actually, I'm coming up with them on the
What's
fly.
your take on hydrogen/alkaline water? I like to put a little bit of lemon in my alkaline water.
Yeah, that's like my favorite thing is the putting acidic things in your alkaline water.
Well, first of all, maybe explain to the people the differences of the different waters and why they're exist in alkaline. And
so the idea is you want to try to reduce the acidity in your diet. Helps the digestion. It helps with a number of things with just overall well-being. Also, like they actually have done a lot of studies on this where in a more alkaline state they have kind of proven is like a better state. So and our foods, the more processed foods tend to be more acidic. So by trying to increase the alkalinization through your water, it's supposed to help. Now,
I guess before you go into that, I mean, how is drinking alkalinic water decreasing the acidity in your body?
Well, there's this thing called the Krebs cycle. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. So that is something that, from a science standpoint, I do not have an answer for you, but I do know that because all water that you ingest is used and goes out into the cells, I guess that must carry that alkaline state.
I mean, physiologically, I'll be honest with you, I have no idea how, if you drink a pH base, how it would decrease the acidity of your entire body. And then
how would
also,
how would they test it? Do you think they would take like a muscle sample?
again, I have no idea. This is a good question. I have no idea as to like how your body. I guess I don't even know the mechanism of how your body regulates the pH balance of your blood. And then also, I don't necessarily understand what the functions of having like a more acidic blood level is.
I definitely learned that in microbiology,
base.
and I also forgot it. So I will go and do some research on that.
Yeah.
And I'll get back and we'll do a follow-up.
Yeah, you should we'll do a fact check on that. And when you're editing this, maybe just write that down of like when we do a fact check of, we should do a fact check of everything.
Yeah.
Because there was something in the last episode that you were like, I should have not.
I literally flip-flopped the role of glucagon and insulin.
But save
Pretty
that
cool
for the fact check.
Yeah. So here's my overarching methodology. Whenever a company is trying to sell you on some specific change to what has been forever, I'm just naturally skeptical. So like we've existed for, millions of years drinking non-alkaline water. I don't see how it's really that beneficial. And like with a lot of things, when they do these studies, like you would have to probably drink, like 3 gallons of alkaline water to make like a minute change. That's just my gut reaction to it. But whatever makes you feel better.
Yeah, I mean, you're starting to see a proliferation of these different types of waters.
Yeah, like they have Kangen like water filtration systems. Like there's like a bunch of different brands now that produce this. Like my friend in Houston has like one set up out. It's like outside of his house. So all the water that comes into his house goes through this filtration system.
Yeah, I mean, I get the kind of mineral water, like the crazy water, and making sure, in Texas we have a ton of calcium in our water, and maybe drinking that.
Which means we have hard water?
Yeah, we have very hard water here.
Yeah.
Which is why when you in your shower head.
Is that why my hair's frizzy?
Yeah. Yeah. Couldn't be any other reason.
No, sorry, that was just the Jew.
Yeah, so that's part of the reason why in your like kitchen sinks and your faucets and also your shower heads, they'll have that white film. It's because of the calcium. And that's also reason why you have to like clean out your hot water tank and your tankless water, because they'll build up calcium over time, which is like the hot water essentially evaporates the H2O and allows the calcium to drop in. That's the reason. So,
all right.
Anyways, that was the question. Yeah, I don't know much about acidity or base. I need to do just more research around what happens to your body when it's too acidic and what happens to your body when it's too base.
All I know is when I eat pizza or spicy pizza, if I drink a lot of milk right after, I have 0 heartburn. So something's going on there. I'm drinking a base on top of
I guess it's like, is that, but is it I guess my question is it because of the pH or is it because of the calcium in the milk
Ooh.
or the fat? Like,
Or the fat.
is the fat lining
That's
your
interesting.
right? There's so much more
Yeah.
nutrients
Well,
in
I know
milk.
what I'm doing till 2 a.m. tonight.
Yeah, you got to fact check that.
Okay.
Okay, next question.
Okay. I'm a runner and I'm always told that I pronate. Why is this bad?
Okay. This is kind of a loaded question.
Yeah.
Let me go back and talk a little bit about, well, first let's talk about what pronation and supination. So your ankle does a bunch of things. Your ankle dorsiflex, which is when your toes come up to your knees. You plantar flex, which is when your toes go away from your knees. You invert, which is your foot laterally goes to the midline. You evert, which is it goes to the outside of midline, so towards the outside of your knee. And then pronation and supination, which is like also your hand. So supination means that the palms of your hands are up towards the sun or the sky, and pronation is the opposite way. And this is the same with your foot. You will pronate your foot so that if you can go towards inside the midline and see the soles of your foot, that's supination. And pronation is when you turn your soles of your feet away from your midline or away from your view.
Right.
Okay, now the reason why, and this also goes to the question of like, do I have bad high arches or
low
low
flat
arches
feet,
or flat feet? And all of it, your body is the way that your body is. Now that you can catch a lot of these things when you're a kid or while you are developing, and you can because we have that. Remember, we have that one patient. Her daughter's one of her feet kind of turns in, like she's getting knocked kneed a little bit, and she is having she's like 3 years old and she's having a hard time, or 4 years old. She's having a hard time getting into like first position in ballet, which is like, is normal. Like you're still growing there. Your body is rapidly developing. There's still a lot of time. If you can catch it, then yeah, of course, like you want to try to create as much symmetry. Your body is the body. Supination while you were running isn't necessarily inherently bad, because you could have supinated your entire life and you could have also fantastic run form. It's like, it's one variable amongst a lot of variables that I take in consideration when I'm evaluating somebody running. Supination is just one variable of the entire link. No one link is going to fuck up your run. There are just basically principles, not hard rules of like how you need to run. It's just like golf. Like every swing is different. Yeah. Everybody's body is different, so everybody's biomechanics are going to be different. The supination in itself is not bad. Now, if you're supinating and you're also very like valgus in your knee, meaning like you're kind of like bow-legged, because that's generally the pattern that will happen, then that can create some issues while you're running, which might create issues into your hip. It might create issues on your medial meniscus. But it's all kind of dependent on what the entire chain is doing. Yeah. Because your supination could actually be helping you with your dorsiflexion and your plantar flexion. So it kind of depends.
It could be a result of something else.
Yeah. I would say not one variable is bad. I have to see the entire thing. I need to see the entire machine work first before I can say, well, supination is really bad for you. Because, and it also just kind of depends on what kind of athlete you are. You know, a great example is baseball players. If a right-handed pitcher will have like ridiculous external rotation, which creates a ton of instability in their shoulder, but they're a major league baseball player, and that's how they make millions and millions of dollars. I'm not going to change their external rotation.
Right. You have too much external rotation. It's like,
yeah. Also, if I was making, 250 million per contract because I have that insane amount of external rotation, I'm not going to change it. Right. So and for some people, if you have that crazy external rotation and you are a gymnast that does rings, that's like a fucking bad situation if you have an asymmetry like that.
Right.
So it's just kind of dependent on the athlete. It's dependent on the person.
Okay.
Lifters.
Yeah.
Are you yay
or nay
on them?
Okay. So similar to your for squatting. Okay. So, another loaded question. So it's athlete specific because generally the role of the lifter is to elevate the heel to improve ankle dorsiflexion, meaning your knee's ability to go over the toes.
Yes.
Which allows you to get deeper into your squat. It also allows you to get your hips closer to your feet. So the more upright your tibia is, the more behind your center of mass you will be, which makes things very awkward when you're trying to get up out of a squat with a lot of weight on your back. So ideally, you want the knees out over the toe enough that your hamstrings and glutes are basically sitting on the ankle, like on the upper part of the ankle. So that's the kind of role of the lifter, is to elevate the heel. And so in squat, it can be very beneficial. Now, in some situations, the heel lift should be less for individuals with a lot of dorsiflexion, because if you have too much and then you elevate the heel, you close the angles down, and an acute angle is harder to overcome than an obtuse angle. So the hardest part of a squat is when your tibia is here and your femur is here. And so they're closed down completely. So you have to open that angle up. Things get easier once you get past halfway, which is why most people have a sticking point in the squat about like a third of the way up. It's like the hardest angle to kind of overcome. Then once you open the angle, force starts to come through again. So this is why you'll see a lot of people deadlift flat-footed, because they're basically adjusting the geometry. Like everything about the lifter and the shoe should all be improving the geometry to make the angles more beneficial for the lift.
My hot take on this is no one should be using my whole thing about lifters, and generally if you have to squat with like something underneath your heels,
that's an issue.
That's a fucking issue. Like if you can't, my thing is you have to show me that you can actually do the movement first under light load before we start adding.
I should say caveat. When you asked me that question, I was an Olympic weightlifter, not in the Olympics. For those of you that don't understand, it's called Olympic weightlifting. It doesn't mean I was in the Olympics. I was not very good, but because that was my sport for a long time, when you talk about lifters, I think, for that sport.
Yeah, so, but like a lot of my biggest fucking, pet peeve is like the CrossFitters.
They just put them on
them on for any time that they have to lift. And I'm like, dude, you don't have the requisite ankle dorsiflexion. And then they wonder why their fucking knees and hips and fucking back kill, because
Rich Froning was way ahead of his time. Like we were all laughing at him doing 300 some pound cleans in his, Reebok Nanos that were like basically untied.
Yeah.
But he
had the requisite ankle dorsiflexion. And one of the issues, as we see in the clinic, I see this a ton, is athletes fucking up their low backs when they're doing a type of back squat. And it's because, one, the issue with, raising your heels when you're squatting, it creates a lot more quad dominance, right? Like you are almost taking out most of your hamstring and your glutes out of it. And you're essentially taking out 2/3 of what your power is. And now you're putting it all into your quads, which creates tightness in the hip flexor, tightness in the quads. The hip flexor tightness will create low back pain. The quad tightness will create knee pain.
Mhm.
And as soon as I start training them out of the lifters, everything suddenly miraculously,
Yeah.
my biggest thing is like coaches will be like, well, you can't get into the deep range of motion, and they're not evaluating where the issue actually is. So then they're like, let's put lifters on, or let's put
Yeah.
weights under your heels to create more plantar flexion, which makes it easier. It's like the same. I have that one athlete who's a dancer, and she wears fucking 4-inch heels while she's dancing, and she's like, yeah, I can now squat. I'm like, yeah, bitch, because you have basically 4-inch lifters on. We've been working on the dorsiflexion, and you just
Took it out.
you're just using my whole thing is like, if you have to use an external tool to get you into these positions, you don't own that position.
Yeah, you don't own it.
You don't own it, and you shouldn't be doing it, because you're now, the other thing that you're doing is you are now recreating or grooving a movement pattern that your body can only get into this position if you are only wearing heels or lifters.
You can think of those accessories as basically like dietary supplements, right? A dietary supplement's not meant to be replacing something in your diet. It's to supplement it.
Yeah.
So when you use an accessory, it should be to supplement the training or make something
augment it. It should be
or augment it, not to forever replace some.
You shouldn't
movement.
use it as a crutch.
Yeah, or a crutch.
Yeah, we're not using. Yeah, and look, it's you do it for. I mean, look, if the rules allow it in Olympic lifting, then you use it, right? Because it's a competitive advantage. But while you're training, you should be training without the lifters. I mean, you should be at least training in a situation where you have the requisite control over your ankles.
Yeah.
If you don't, then you're just grooving a pattern that's just going to make it worse.
Yeah. And the force on the joint and on the muscle group is changed when you put lifters on.
Yeah.
This is an N=1 thing, but like I have a lot of ankle flexibility. I always wore lifters because I was an Olympic weightlifter. My hips, I would always injure them.
Yeah.
I stopped wearing them because I, finally looked at myself and said, well, what if I was another athlete and I was coaching them? I would look at this and say, well, why are you wearing lifters? You don't need that much. And I was wearing the Nike ones, which have like the highest amount, and haven't hurt my hip. Since I stopped. I start, just wearing more flatter sole shoe.
For those of you that aren't watching the video, I just rolled my eyes fucking hard.
You only make a mistake 15 times before you learn from it.
Yeah, and look, for those of you, what the thing that like is so triggering for me is when you see females on like TikTok or Instagram and they're like lifting real heavy on a high heel. I'm like, yeah, that's easy. That's easier. To lift in fucking high heels is easier because you're basically taking out the ankle completely and you can now lift heavier.
That's why we should all be like, do you remember Adrian Bosman?
No.
He was one of the original owners of CrossFit San Francisco with Kelly Starrett.
Mm-hmm.
And he was on HQ staff for like a long, long time. But he was known for just always wearing the All-Stars. Like, and he just had the black high top, like, cover the ankle, black All-Stars, always, in everything he did.
I love it.
And so, we're like, well, that's kind of.
I mean, if you look at what the CrossFit shoe looks like, it's a flat, heavy zero heel lift shoe. That's what the Metcons are. The Metcons have almost no. There's flat shoe. There's no heel lift on it.
Uh-huh.
But then. And again, for the CrossFitters out there, you're meant to actually squat in those shoes. And if you can't squat in those shoes, you have to fucking change out your shoe.
Well, now the Metcons come with a
lift.
A lift. You can replace the sole, and it gives you an extra lift.
Ugh.
I don't use those.
Woof. Okay, next question.
Oh, I only had. How many did we have?
Okay. You only had 3.
I thought I had 4. Did I only have 3?
Yeah, you only had 3.